As the official healthcare provider of Minnesota United, Allina Health is focused on keeping our loons in top condition. And with expertise in orthopedics, sports medicine, heart care, and more, Allina has the team to keep your family in the game too. The experts at Allina Health take the time to get to know you as a whole person, helping you achieve wellness for your mind, body, and spirit. It's an altogether better kind of healthcare. Learn more at allinahealth.org. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sound of the Loons presented by Allina Health. And today we get to rock this episode. It's a Tuesday afternoon. We get to record this heading into Minnesota United's friendly against Kaiserslautern, part of the Bundesliga 2. And you guys traveled from afar. I get to be joined by Terrence Boyd, who many people watching this may know that. They're like, wait, well, he's with Kaiserslautern. He's Bundesliga 2. But we remember him from the U.S. men's national team. He's got the tattoo, he's worn the crest, but now we get to invite you in here to be part of our podcast in this friendly with Minnesota United at Allianz Field on Wednesday evening. So Terrence, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to join. I know you just came off the field from practice, from training. It's been a grind. It's been a week or two since you guys have stepped foot on United States soil. Well, thanks for taking the time to join me today.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me. And yes, I am so tired. So forgive me in advance if I mess something up. Yeah.
Oh, speaking. Well, let's just let everybody in on a little secret. You thought it was going to take you a while to get going. And then we started recording and I completely butchered the name of the club and we had to start over. So I think you get a free pass considering the schedule that you have. And that's part of it, right? You just got to go with the flow. I always tell people, if you can't like laugh at yourself and just move on and be okay with not being perfect, then we're doing the wrong thing here.
Amen, sister. That's my motto. Yeah. So you should be able to laugh about yourself. And I mean, life's too serious and too hard to not be laughing about you. So yeah.
I'm with you.
It's been a hell of a week for us. Nice for many first timers in our team being in the States for the first time. Me especially as a former national team player, coming back to the States, nice seeing those people around. Still, wanting to catch up with Zarek Valentine. Wow. Used to play with him the under-20s back in the day. And let's just see who aged more.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, by the looks of it, neither of you. You guys are both just rocking it at this age. And Zarek, we've had him on already on the podcast and nothing but positive vibes coming from that guy. And everybody loves him around the club and his history with MLS. So and he talked to us recently. He did a path video about sort of his rise through the youth national team systems and stuff. So it's fun to hear that you're going to have time to catch up with him. But I want to talk to you a little bit about your journey. First, tell me, over here in the United States, what is that like coming back for you? As you've spent most of your life in Germany playing in different clubs, but also growing up there as well, but played for, as we just said, the U.S. men's national team, the youth system here, spent some time over here as well. So what's that like for you? Does it feel like coming home or not? Or does it feel like a visit? What does it feel like for you?
Well, it's hard to put it in words since I was born and raised in Germany. So, military thing, American dad who was stationed in Germany. Born and raised there, lived as a baby in New York for like a year. And remember, obviously. And then I think starting with the under-20 national team, it's the first time I got called up. It's very proud. Even though I haven't been living in the States, it's always been a dream of mine. And every time I got to represent the country, it was just an incredible honor. And I got all my education from Germany, from German soccer, obviously. And yeah, what's like coming back here? I mean, every time it's just a nice experience. It's nice seeing those Americans around. It's just a different vibe when it comes to comparing like Germany or European countries to the States. And yeah, for me, I was super stoked when the news broke that we have a training camp in the States. First time Minnesota. First thought was, oh, that must be cold. But since the summer, I just got to experience, yeah, what a beautiful city. Just yesterday, went golfing. Was incredible.
So when you talk about some of the youngsters or some of the other players, I should say, they might not be young, but their first time visit to the United States, and then also getting to experience some of the soccer culture now compared to, I mean, you spent a short bit, right, with Toronto FC in MLS. What do you make of this league now? And have you been to Allianz Field yet? Have you guys gotten to see that yet? Or, you know, what is the vibe for you around MLS from your viewpoint, being basically born and raised, as you just stated, in Germany, but having spent time here and knowing what soccer means in the United States and where it's come?
Well, I think it's been progressing a lot over the years. I mean, I don't watch soccer, period. So it's hard for me to catch MLS games. Obviously, I watch like the playoffs and the final, but just with every year, and obviously you have like colleagues playing in MLS teams. So you kind of follow it and see the growth through the years. I mean, starting with just like players coming there close to retiring or superstars, and now it's getting more and more that like well, actually young talents are making their way to the US. And yeah, it's not a retirement league, right? So I mean, obviously my stint at Toronto, I don't know if I can curse, but I just sucked. So it's hard to compare the league strength, but I would say that, like, I mean, obviously there's no promotion or relegation and this system, which, yeah, the country itself will benefit from. But just when you look at all those fantastic players in this league, yeah, well, I don't know why they shouldn't be like I don't know, top 5, top 8 league in the world at some given point. So it takes time, obviously. And yeah, first time Minnesota. I haven't been to Allianz Field yet. Just saw it from the outside. Looks beautiful. And just we've been the food hall, I think. Watched it with some Minnesota games. Your win, and they were talking about like selling out the stadium every time, which is, yeah, fantastic. And yeah, you just see the growth, and it's just exciting what's going to come in the future.
With your career in the stops that you've had, when you look at how your career progressed, do you have any specific memorable moments as far as stops? I mean, you can go on the list: Hertha Berlin, Borussia Dortmund. You know, you've been several places, Bundesliga 1, you know, 2. Like, what if you look back at your career and your incredible journey at this point in your life, and you can reflect on it and go, wow, this is where I've accomplished this, I've checked that box, I've done this. Do you feel just incredibly grateful? Do you feel like there's you know, maybe something left not accomplished? Or what do you feel like when you look back at your career, even though you're still in the midst of it?
I mean, I've seen some places. I think I'm 100% grateful for what I've achieved. I mean, there's been some highs, many lows, and which is normal for a career. Highs were with Rapid Vienna, scoring Europe League consistently. Yeah, then one big point was not making the World Cup roster for Brazil in 2014, which was hard for me personally. Went to Leipzig, and then all just spiraled down when I tore my ACL, and I was out for like 1.5 years and was 4 surgeries in, and we're thinking about like retiring when I was like, I don't know, 24, 25, I don't know. Yeah, after that it took me so many years to just not just regain my strength, but also confidence in myself. And at Darmstadt in the Bundesliga in the second league. After that, went to Toronto. beautiful city, nice team. But I just didn't have the confidence, the self-confidence, and I just didn't live up to my own expectations, and then obviously to the expectations of everyone else. And this just results in bad performances. And then I went back to the third league in Germany and just had fun again. Felt like my old self, kept scoring. And then I was just incredibly, just proud to join Kaiserslautern, which is one of the biggest name in German soccer. And now that time they were in the third league. We were pushing for promotion. We got the job done, and this is unbelievable. We have like 5 to 10K away fans. Every now and then we're selling out 50,000 at home for a second league team, which is extraordinary. When it just comes to the fan base of Kaiserslautern, they're like second to none. It's like I would say home stadium and fan base wise, we're like top 5 in Germany. And so it's about waking up a sleeping giant, regaining strength, just fighting to get the respect that the respect that Kaiserslautern brings with it, just back to German soccer. And it's been a nice ride right now. And we just 2 years ago we've been in the third league, and now we're doing a US trip for a preseason. This is just incredible for us, and we just want to set the bar higher every year now, because this club will eventually get back to first league. I don't know what time that will be. I don't know if I'm going to be around still, but it's one of the biggest clubs in Germany, and it's just an honor for them to play for them.
What's it like to be a part of the club, though, that you just said was in the third division? And I mean, what is that like to be a part of that, to accomplish that? For those in the United States, as you just stated, we don't have promotion relegation in MLS, but what is that like to be a part of that and just feel that energy? And then the support from the fans, because those are the kind of fans and supporters that don't just support you when you're winning. This is like the kind of, and they're critical, right? But they are like, this is like through and through. So to feel like you've given something to them, what's that like?
Well, I mean, it's so much responsibility, obviously, but it's just somehow it's just an honor to just represent a whole region of people who just who die for this club. I mean, I don't think we got that in the States. Like they live for their team and die for their teams. And so obviously when it's like getting like into relegation battles, okay, that's hard, then okay, you don't want to mess up with these guys. But for example, a year ago we got promoted. We had the playoffs against the second league team, two-leg game, and we won it, and boom, hell broke loose. So we had like the whole city like lit up. We had like a parade through the city, 10, 15,000 in the city, just going crazy, going nuts. And I mean, it's a lot of responsibility that comes with this fan power. But at the end of the day, you just happy to represent them, and you got like 50,000 crazy people in the back.
What's the fan base been like here? Have you found any of those same supporters here? Have they traveled in your time in the United States since you guys have come over for this preseason trip? Have you had any or their gatherings, or is there a supporter group here? I mean, that's happened in the past where there's people that organize things here when they know that a team is coming. Have you guys experienced that at all in the United States yet?
Talk about our fans?
Yes.
Yeah. So we've seen fans in Louisville and in Minnesota right now. Which is crazy. Just people that happen to live at Ramstein, a military base, which is close to us. That's the connection to the States. So many Americans didn't just fall in love with soccer, but also Kaiserslautern, because it was the closest, biggest club around, and went back to the States and still supported them. So it's nice seeing. We were surprised as well, seeing like Kaiserslautern fans, seeing like, okay, but it's just, we're just very happy to see them. And to represent.
We always say that, though, about soccer or football, right? I mean, it is the world's greatest game. I mean, people don't, sometimes in the United States, we get very centric on the other four sports, but it is the world's biggest game on the biggest stage, and it draws people, it brings people together.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of it across the world. So when you look at your time here in the United States, what was the trip like to Louisville? Has the preseason been like, or what does this trip have been like? And what are you guys looking to gain from it? What do you think a trip like this for your team, for your club, does for you guys?
I mean, it's been a tiring trip. Flying to Louisville, getting there, having a game of the friendly on the second day, I think, and then like leaving at 4 a.m. and moving to Minneapolis. But what are we looking to gain? I mean, it's just about, it's kind of a marketing tour, and so it's like it's two sides to the medal. Obviously, we want to get some work done, and we are getting work done because we're basically dying in here. Because our coach, well, let's put it this way: we can march for years. come game one of the season, and throughout the process, I'm the one moaning like, it's like I'm getting
like, I'm too old for this.
Exactly.
I've been through too many of these. I've done too many of those.
Exactly. But this is the grind you got to get through. And I mean, as of right now, we're not the best team in the second league, but we gotta at least be fit and ready to march and fight. And that's what it's all about when it comes to Kaiserslautern, to itch and scratch and fall down, get back up, and just fight until the last minute. And we got the power for it. Got to set the tone right now. We are doing that as I'm speaking, and that's why I'm tired and doesn't make sense what I'm saying right now. But yeah, off the field, that's why I'm sitting here right now. And we had some other events. Met with a German school yesterday. We got some more meetings coming up, and just spreading the word, not just spreading the word to get new fans, but just reconnecting with those established fans, showing love, and just promoting the beauty of soccer.
And then how about the camaraderie, though? I mean, trips like this, when you get away from home, it's out of the normal routine with the same group. And you just said some of the first trip for some of these guys to the United States, it ends up being a little bit, as you said, there's two sides to it. It's the work that you're putting in to get ready, but also at the same time, there's other things that you guys can gain as a team. Do you find that when you go away, get out of your element, you have a new environment to bond and have, a camaraderie with the group, with the team?
Yeah, I mean, you can be in the most beautiful camp and you still want to go home on the second day because you want to get back to your families. I got 2 kids at home, my wife. But this is work, and it's you can't put it into words how important it is for team chemistry, being together 24/7. And obviously there are days where you just fed up with all those faces and you can't see them anymore. But this is what it's all about when it comes to our team. And I think we've shown that the camaraderie, the passion within the team, that we are willing to just give everything for the guy next to us. And so I mean, you don't see the progress, but it's happening, in the background. And it's nice.
It comes to fruition usually in those hard moments in the midst of the season when you least expect it. That's when those moments come to fruition. And honestly, sometimes it's about the relationships that you may not even realize you're developing now that come to fruition later. As you just talked about trying to get together with Zarek at some point when you played with him on the 20. So you never know what the career path, where it leads you down the road. And then lastly, I just want to ask you, at this point in your career, where do you what is it that brings you back every year? What is it that you love most about this game, as you're talking about? There's hard days and sometimes it's work and it's away from your family, but you still get to, you get to have an opportunity to do something that not a lot of others do. But what is it that brings you back every year still?
It's several things. I mean, first of all, I'm a striker, so I'm doing all that to just have this moment when the ball hits the net and you're like invincible for like a millisecond. When you just, when you just score goals, it's nothing nothing better. Since I'm 32 now, I had some thoughts. Okay, what are you gonna miss when you retire? And I think it's just the day-to-day practices and just fooling around in the locker room, on the pitch, between the drills, and just as you've mentioned, the team chemistry, just those relationships with everyone. And this is gonna be hard when the day comes. That I'm going to retire, but it's just the passion. You said it before, the beauty of the game, that it just connects so many people, and I see it every day. And it's just a blessing to get paid for what you just did as a kid on the streets. And it doesn't. I mean, preseason does feel like work, but during the season, it's just you're just grateful to get paid for what you love, and there's nothing better to it. Yeah.
Well, and I think you just said it too, like you get to do what you did as a kid, maybe on the streets, and now you see these kids in the stands. Mm-hmm. And then, we say a lot, like, if you see it, you can be it. And sometimes when there's a connection there, and you're like, man, that was me one day, I was that kid watching this on television, or watching it and, playing it in the streets, coming to a game. Seeing these athletes and these guys as role models. So I think that there are days, there's hard days, but at the end of the day, there's probably nothing better. And then you get to see this opportunity. So I appreciate you taking the time today. Like you said, I know you're in the midst of the grind, but I love the smile and appreciate you. I appreciate the whole club being here, because I think this is like a great opportunity too, for people in Minnesota, in the United States, to witness teams abroad. And sometimes they get caught up in what's right in front of them, or maybe sometimes only the clubs that they see most often on television or some streaming service. So I love being able to highlight other clubs as well.
Yeah. So I think, not just us, but maybe Minnesota United as well can benefit from it. Just, also having conversations. I saw the coaches talk yesterday. You never know what it might end up to. So it's just, connecting all those dots together, and just getting more perspective for all those teams, for just everyone related to this trip to soccer period. And it's nice. It's just I'm finished.
Oh, well, I appreciate you. Go get some lunch, go get on the team bus, whatever you're going to go take a nap. You got a big game tomorrow night at Allianz Field. I'm excited for you to see the stadium. It's beautiful. Really well done. And hopefully it lives up to the expectations and what you guys get to experience on your home turf with those fantastic fans. So hopefully give you some love here tomorrow night.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Terrence. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay, bye.
The newest chapter in the rivalry between MLS and Liga MX is coming to Minnesota this summer. The 2023 Leagues Cup arrives at Allianz Field July 23rd, when the Loons take on Club Puebla in their first group stage match. Just 3 days later, a date with Chicago Fire will wrap up MNUFC's group play. For more details on this new competition, or to secure your tickets before they're gone, visit MNUFC.com today. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to segment number 2 of Sound of the Loons. And we are very fortunate and lucky to be joined by Manuel Veth, who's going to give us all things transfer market, Bundesliga, FC Kaiserslautern. We're going to get the lowdown on everything and anything. And we also just found out and made the connection that you were in Seattle when I was just doing the Seattle Sounders Orlando City game, which is kind of funny. What a game that was for MLS. But I want to just get your little bit of your take on what we think about this team and this club and FC Kaiserslautern, and then also just the Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2 and what it means to sort of be covering it, because I know that you've got you wear many hats, and you know how the social media and everything is these days. We have access to information all the time. You guys get no days off. You get no minute off. So what
No.
what is it like for you covering such an incredible league and being based here? I shouldn't say in the United States, but in North America.
Yeah, it's the distances are always a challenge, right? I was down in Louisville for the first of the two Kaiserslautern games, and I live on Vancouver Island, and I do the track to Germany on a very regular basis. And there's direct flights from Vancouver to Munich, which is where my family lives and where I grew up. But I tell you, getting to Louisville was tricky. It was first a flight to Vancouver, and then an 11 o'clock at night flight from Vancouver to Chicago. So you get there at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? And then you have to jump on yet another flight to get to Louisville. And I think the Kaiserslautern guys were like, "Oh yeah, it's such a long flight." And I'm like, "I'm pretty sure my flight was longer, and I live on the same continent, so don't complain to me, please. Like, this is pretty normal here." But yeah, you know what? It's like it's great because like obviously I work for Transfermarkt, and I represent the company here in North America, and it's a German-based company, right? And we've been really trying to make a name for ourselves in Canada and the United States, and because of that, there's a lot of travel involved, and this is such a great continent. It just takes a while to get anywhere. This working for Apple, I'm sure, So, yeah, it's really great. And then of course, still really, really closely tied to Germany. And we have the Gegenpressing project. My Transfermarkt colleague and I, which is Stefan Bienkowski, and we do the Gegenpressing podcast, right? We do 4 shows a week, and then we do 2 articles each as well on just German football, because that's how we both got to this great profession of journalism. And yeah, so we get to cover teams like Kaiserslautern that are very historic, and we're very over here and providing us, some access to actually cover them in depth.
Well, that's a great point, because as we just talked to Terrence Boyd, who is part of FC Kaiserslautern, and talking about the growth of the game here in the United States and MLS. What is your perception being here on this continent in North America of this league, and then also players coming in and out, and what their connection is to Bundesliga and to German football? That would seems like we're seeing a little bit more as some of the star U.S. men's national team players have been part of Bundesliga.
I think there's, in general, a really strong connection between the United States or North America and Germany. That goes back all the way to of course, a post-World War II area, and there's huge army bases, and we probably get to talk about that a little bit of Kaiserslautern, and they're very strong bond to the Ramstein Air Force Base, right? So we have that little bit of a connection. We have all the GI babies. You interviewed Terrence Boyd. He's one of them. We call him GI babies in Germany because like he's an American father, and but grew up in Germany, and so he has that connection as well. And there's a lot of Americans that call Germany their home. There's a lot of Germans that call America their home, and so I feel that there is a strong natural connection between the two countries. So you see a lot of U.S. men's national team players making their first step or their entire careers in the Bundesliga. And obviously in Canada, we have Alphonso Davies at Bayern Munich. He's the biggest star MLS arguably has ever produced. So, we get that really strong bond. And so as a German, my mom is from Canada, so I'm German Canadian, like, it feels like almost there's like this natural connection between the two places. And I think that's really great. And it also makes it more likely that German teams come over here and do the sort of things that Kaiserslautern do. And, they're very open and willing, and it almost feels natural for them to do it as well. And yeah, I think that's it's a really wonderful story.
You said right there, though, I mean, with specifically with Kaiserslautern coming to the United States, I mean, Terrence made that sound like it was a big deal where they've been. When he joined Kaiserslautern in the 3rd division and getting promoted, they want to get back to, the 1st division at some point, and wanting to be, he doesn't know if he'll be a part of that or not, being 32 years old. But what does that mean for a club like that with that kind of history? Because they've been around for so long. He says 50,000 fans at their home stadiums, but to come over here to the United States for a preseason trip, part of a marketing tour, and of course, just preseason. What does that mean for a club like that?
Yeah, just doing my research for my own articles, like I have actually family that is from the Pfalz, the region that Kaiserslautern is from, or Rheinland-Palatinat, I think is the English term for it. And K-Town, I always realized that there was a big Air Force base, but when you look at the actual numbers, it's 54,000 military personnel plus 5,000 civilian personnel plus their families.
Wow.
That just live in and around Kaiserslautern, right? And so that's when you see that number, and then when you talk to people working for Kaiserslautern and have been there for a while, they all use like all these American slang terms all the time. And it makes you realize it's probably because they hear it on the streets all the time, right? All the restaurants are American restaurants. There's also, a strong Mexican-American community there. And so you get a lot of that Mexican food as well. So, that also makes you realize that there is that strong bond. But also, Kaiserslautern is such a big traditional club in German football. This is the club whose spine won the first World Cup for Germany in 1954, right? The Fritz Walter and his brothers. And, without them, and the stadium now, of course, is named the Fritz Walter Stadion. That was the team that really defined the German post-World War II era, right? And so they play such a big role in that, even though they're from a town that's actually not that big. There's only about 100,000 people that live in Kaiserslautern, right? So yet they have such a big importance on them. But then even throughout the era, they always went deep in European Cup competitions. They of course, they wrote history in the late 90s when they got relegated as a German Cup winner and then came up and then right away won the German championship the following year. So this is a club that has a lot of history, but has been sort of buried in the lower echelons of the lower divisions, right? And went through bankruptcy proceedings and it's now really on the move back up.
When you look at that move and how difficult it is. Maybe, Terrence had mentioned, of course, promotion, relegation, and how MLS doesn't have that. And there's always that long ongoing debate here on whether that would work in North America and MLS or not. But at the end of the day, he said there's a sense of responsibility when you play for that club, to the fan base, of course, to yourselves, to your teammates, to the club, but probably first and foremost to the fan base. And they've seen fans here in the United States, in Minnesota, and they're like, what the heck? I didn't know, they were over here and reaching out and doing some of these appearances and whatnot. So when you talk about that history, that's something that is not quite there yet in the United States, right? We talk about, people want MLS to be what other leagues are around the world, but it's, other leagues have been 100+ years in existence. Tell us more about the history of Kaiserslautern specifically, and then you just ran through some of the accolades and some of the players that have gone through there. But what does it mean when you think about the history of that club in particular?
Well, we call them the Red Devils, the Roten Teufel. The stadion is the Betzenberg, right? Because it's actually on a little mountain. So Betzenberg is the Devil's Mountain, I guess. And so I grew up in Germany in the 1990s, and they were a huge club then, like a really huge club. Would always play for the German title. Wouldn't always win it. They have only won 4 German titles. But again, we have to underline how big of a town this is. This is a small town, right? And they have always punched way above their weight. In terms of history, I think that 1954 World Cup team is such a big deal, right? But they've always had German national team players. Andreas Brehme, of course, is from Kaiserslautern, right? He's the guy who scored the 1990 World Cup winning goal. Miroslav Klose is a Kaiserslautern product as well. He still holds the record as having scored the most goals in World Cup history. Of course, I think Mbappe is going to eventually get that, but for now, he holds that record, and he's a Kaiserslautern boy as well, right? So you don't even have to go that far back to find the imprint on German football by this club. And then, of course, you have to remember too, German clubs are membership owned, right? Kaiserslautern has investors, but the vast majority of decisions are actually made by the club's fans and the paying members of the club, right? And so that is what, when players tell you about the responsibility that they have to give back to the fans. And I was in Louisville, there was a couple of hundred Kaiserslautern fans in the stands there, which is mind-blowing.
That's amazing.
It is amazing, but I do think that's because Fort Knox isn't far away.
But still,
yeah,
right.
Still,
to show up, to be a part of it, to want to come to that, to, make sure that you make a point to be there. That's again, though, the point of the beauty of as I was saying to Terrence, the beautiful game and how it travels the world, and the real support that happens in this sport, maybe than any other. And then you have these fans that are showing up. They didn't just go, oh, look, they're in town. They made a point to be there, and the history of the club fuels that.
It's actually interesting. When I was in Louisville, I had to take a taxi ride back to the hotel that Lautern were staying in, because I was doing an interview with Terrence Boyd myself, and there was a guy who extended his work trip. He's going to work for the company that owns a famous chicken restaurant in the United States. I'm not sure we're allowed to name companies, whether because of sponsoring reasons, but like I think everyone can guess what it is.
Yeah.
And he extended his work trip just so he could see Kaiserslautern. I mean, and he's paying it with his own money. And I mean, getting back from Louisville is not cheap, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it, though. That is part of the beautiful game, and like how it reaches people and it affects people. And you were just talking about the history of this club and everything they've accomplished. And even though it may be a club that not as many people in the United States or that are soccer fans and football fans here in MLS have maybe never heard of it, but that's part of the point of the trip, and a point of you doing what you do and putting your heart and soul into it is to continue to extend that. So it's not always just the teams that are on the streams and on the TV broadcast. It's reaching everybody. Well,
and I think Kaiserslautern actually have quite a big footprint in the United States because of the Army connection. There's an interesting project on Twitter. It's called the German Fußball Fan Association. It's a Twitter account where they have a map of the United States and Canada with all the different Bundesliga fan clubs that exist. And Kaiserslautern is very prominent on that map. And, I guess that is once again, because like lots of Germans that may have grown up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they moved to the United States. And, that's when Kaiserslautern was such a big name. But it's also, I think, the military connection is a big one here. And I think too, there is, that fan that I met, for example, he grew up in Munich. There's another big club in Munich that a lot of people have heard of, and yet he's still a Kaiserslautern fan, right? So, yeah, I think it's really important to note that despite them being in the second division, this is still a really big name in German football, and they broke a bunch of records this season with their attendance numbers. They're easily in the top 50 when it comes to attendance around the world, not just in Germany, but around the world. And, they're among top 15 teams in Germany when it comes to attendance. And we're talking about a country that breaks the regular attendance numbers when it comes to football every single season, right? And so this is still a club that draws huge amount of numbers and still moves the masses, as we say in Germany, right? And so, yeah, I think if you in Minnesota and you see this club come, you maybe look at the team sheet and there really is only Terrence Boyd and you don't recognize many of the other names. But, the team itself is still, I think, a huge draw. And it is really worth also a team worth watching because they are on the up. They got promoted to the second division last year. They finished ninth, but there was a moment in time in the first half of the season before the World Cup break where it looked like, okay, they could go up to the Bundesliga, which would probably have been too early for them. But, there was a moment in time where we thought there is a chance that Kaiserslautern could return to the Bundesliga for the first time since the 2011-2012 season.
What does that do for a club? To put it in for anybody that doesn't maybe fully understand or listens to this podcast or listens to any podcast or follows MLS, what does that do for a club to be in the first division or back into Bundesliga as we're talking to Bundesliga itself?
Yeah, I mean, even from third division, when they went down to the third division in 2018, that is a huge drop in finances. You're still talking professional football, but there's virtually no television money. Once you get back to the second Bundesliga in Germany, the two leagues, the Bundesliga and the second Bundesliga, are governed by the same body, the DFL, the Deutsche Fußballliga. So imagine MLS being split in MLS 1 and MLS 2, essentially, right? The moment you get into the second division, you're not rich overnight, but your television money improves dramatically. And that gives you way more resources to be competitive. And also if you're in a financial difficult situation, which a lot of clubs are because of COVID, right? You have to remember in Germany, they didn't play with attendance for a very long time. And we talked about the attendance numbers that a club like Kaiserslautern gets. That hurts, right? So the moment you get back into the second division, you're talking bigger attendance numbers, you're talking bigger opponents. The second division in Germany right now has more German champions than the Bundesliga, the first division, because also, and this is a huge factor, unlike most other countries in Europe, the first and the second division only have 36 teams, right? So England has 20 in the first and I think 26 in the second. So, it's easier to stay in those two top flights if you're a big club. In Germany, it's very difficult even for some of the big clubs to stay in the first division because there's only 18 teams in that first division. So we're talking about teams like Hamburg and Schalke and Hertha, and these are all big teams that have won German titles. Kaiserslautern, of course, have won 4, but then there's also some of the big East German teams that also have been title holders, like Hansa Rostock. Magdeburg has won a European Cup. They're in the second division as well, right? So it's really difficult, but the flip side of that is all these teams are huge. So they all bring a lot of fans, they fill your stadium. So the moment you're back in the second division, your financial outlook is just way better.
I remember I was in Frankfurt, I don't know, a while back, and we went to a Schalke game, my husband and I was like blown away. And then it was even like the post after the game, there was like almost a fight on like the deck where you like get on the train and like someone almost shoved someone into like an oncoming, it was like, it was, all sort of in good fun, but to your point about the passion of the fans and the energy and like the support and everybody, at the end of the day, like in it for the same reasons and supporting something. And you see the generational aspect of it, that of the people that are going to these games and how, it's not just about the game itself, it's about doing it together. And we really see that generational aspect. And it was really fun to see when we were over there. And I feel like that's why those clubs that you're talking about in Kaiserslautern specifically is you talk about, it's not that big of a city, but the generational aspect has to be massive. What is passed down and why some, 5-year-old is a fan of it is because his 85-year-old your great grandfather was a fan of that same club.
And more importantly, in Germany, a member.
A member, to your point, exactly.
Which is not like a membership in many other countries where you get like reduced ticket prices. You have a vote. Right. You decide who's going to be on the board. And that board decides who's going to be the head coach. It's going to decide who's the president. Like in German football, and you making this point, it is generational. I always joke, I made this big mistake when I was 6 years old, and I asked my dad whose favorite football club was, because like I grew up in Munich, and I wish to this day he had said Bayern, but he said 1860 Munich. And so I grew up an 1860 fan and long suffering 1860 fan. But it's a really important point to make, because you remember, right? Like it's like you're a card carrying member of a club.
It goes back to the responsibility factor.
Yes, exactly. But also that gives you ownership in a literal sense, right? And I think that is something I always try to explain it, like what that means and how that's comparable. And I think the only thing that comes close to it in North America is your association to your college. Sure. How college sports are so big, and because you went to that university and your father went to that university and your grandfather or your mother or grandmother, etc., right? And then it becomes almost as ownership. And I think that is the only thing that's comparable. I was in Georgia once when they had the big American football game there, and there was 500,000 people in that town in Athens, and I was just like, wow, what's going on? And then like this was explained to me. I'm like, so that's I think the only thing that's comparable.
When you look at MLS and now spending your time here in North America and sort of trying to spread the word on German clubs, but here in the United States or in North America, what do you make of this league, and what do you make of MLS and how far it's come, where it's going, and then just what you see from just being in different cities that have Major League Soccer in them? You see the expansion. What's your take on it?
I've been doing this for quite some time. I came over in 2001. first for high school and then university, and then I left back for Europe to finish my studies, and then came back again, and became one of my first real, I was freelancing for a while, but one of my first freelancing for real journalism jobs, I should say, was working for Pro Soccer USA, which belonged to the USA Today network, right? Drunk, and I was a beat writer covering the Vancouver Whitecaps. That was around 2017-ish, I would say. And that was around the time that Davies really broke onto the scene. And I think I always found MLS really fascinating because they are trying to build something from the ground up. And it's by far not perfect. I think everyone can find its flaws in the system, and we can argue probably for hours about promotion and relegation.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's a series of podcasts, I think. Yeah. But ultimately, I see the growth of the league, and I see the development it has churned out, like the talents that has been churning out of MLS, and every year the players seem to be getting better. The teams are getting younger, which is, I think, really important. This is what you want from your league, from your domestic league, that it produces players for your national team programs, right? And you've seen Canada and the United States improving dramatically. We just witnessed the CONCACAF Nations League final between Canada and the United States, and I think it's pretty safe to say those are the two leading countries in CONCACAF now. In terms of talent, and that is two large parts of MLS. And you can criticize MLS in many ways as well, but that is the underlying factor that has made the game on this continent better. And I think that is something that you have to really applaud the league for in its development. And then there's some great markets. I mean, Minnesota, I see what they do at field. It's just wonderful, right? With the Wonderball that. I've been covering St. Louis's expansion quite a bit because Lutz Pfannenstiel is down there, right? And German sporting director. And I went down there twice. I went there for the opening of the stadium when they played Leverkusen, and then I went for their first ever home match. And it was incredible to see it. I mean, we were both in Seattle, right, at Lumen Field, and this is a team that has such a big story, not just in MLS, but going beyond that. And yeah, I think it's really growing, and sometimes we think we focus too much on the negative rather than saying, yeah, this league is actually, going in the right direction.
Well, and I think that sometimes the biggest thing is when there's criticism from other places, or even within United States or North America, but maybe people that have only followed other leagues. And I can't tell you how many times, I've gone to a city, and even if it's like, let's say Seattle, which has a tremendous following there, and you take an Uber or something and you ask them, and if they're a soccer fan and they've never been to a Sounders game, or their favorite team is like Man City, or it's trying to get people to understand that this league doesn't have to be like every other league or built like other leagues, and for it to work maybe in North America and in the United States, it has to be different in the way it functions. And so trying to find the positives and the differences rather than feeling like it has to be done like it is everywhere else. Does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense, because this isn't England or Germany. You can't copy that. You will never copy a club like Kaiserslautern. It takes 100 years to do that.
Right. It's history. It's
history. And I mean, the most historic teams that we have in MLS are the three Cascadia clubs, right? That's the Whitecaps, the Timbers, and the Sounders, because they date back to the old NESL, and they have a continuous history. But even then, we're talking about the 1970s, right? We're not talking about Kaiserslautern were formed in the turn of the last century. Right. So, they're having 100+ years of history to back what they are today. And we can fast track that as much as we want, but you can't copy that. It's just not possible. And so you need to go your own path. You need to both know who you are as a league. You need to cherish the traditions and the history that you have, and it exists. I think there is a history of soccer in this country, in Canada or the United States. You need to cherish that, and you need to build on it. But you can't same way than other countries have done it, because that's just not possible. You're just not going to be able to replicate that. So I think that's always something that you have to keep in mind when you look at this league. MLS, remember in the year that we get into the COVID, we celebrated 25 years MLS.
Yes.
Right. And there was a good chance that the league wouldn't even gotten there. If David Beckham hadn't come to MLS in 2007, we'll probably be not sitting here right now. So I think that is something really important to keep in mind, that there was stages where this league almost didn't work out, and that the growth since, and maybe there is different paths to get there, but ultimately the league has survived and has grown since, right? And I think don't look at other countries when you're building this, because it's just not going to work. You need to find your own way. And that's the thing too. Look at the other sports in North America, whether it's in Canada, it's NHL. I know Minnesota as well, right? And the NHL is huge, hockey, basketball or American football. These are different league systems. So you need to borrow from what's been there, but been done in the past and has been successful in the past. And I think that is something very important to keep in mind when you look at this league. And you know what? I think it's really important what you just said, because I was also in a taxi on the way back to my buddy's place after the Sounders game. And he's like, oh, you went to the Sounders game? And I'm a huge football fan. He's like, do you ever go? And it's like, no. I only watch English football. And I'm like, but
it does your head in, doesn't it? It does your head in, doesn't it? And it's a fantastic team that's been successful and wins and has a history, but that happens also, a lot. And I think that's what you're always fighting.
Football. It's live football. Nothing beats live football.
Exactly.
There's on the Friday before the Sounders game, there's a team in Seattle called Ballard FC. They play in the USL League 2. Small club, the stadium has 1,000 seats. They have a great beer garden. I just went with my buddy to watch the game. I could sit in the beer garden with him, chat about a bunch of stuff. There was also live sports, drink a few beers. Who cares?
Yes.
That is maybe one thing that you need to borrow from Europe. In Europe, we just go to these games to hang out. It's similar to people do baseball, right?
Very true. And I will say, when you were just talking about Cascadia teams and NASL, I mean, even Minnesota United Minnesota has such a history before it got into MLS with NASL. And you think about, all the different iterations and some of the stars. I mean, when Pele was in this league, I mean, so, it's just crazy. We talk about MLS, but so many of these states and these cities that maybe don't even have an MLS team yet, but they have USL, USL1, NASL. I mean, there was, major indoor leagues across that. So I just think that it's just respecting to each their own and how they've gone about it and how they've gotten there and what they're doing. And if it's a league, if it's a team, if it's a city, if it's a club. And, I think that's, when you talk about Kaiserslautern, before we kind of wrap this up, specifically about this match, this game that they're coming to town for. I know it's a friendly and I know it's preseason and, everybody wants to get something different out of it, but what can people expect from that game against Minnesota United on Wednesday night?
Well, I went to the game in Louisville, right? And first of all, there was almost 8,000 people there, which is great, right? And I think too that Kaiserslautern were quite surprised by the level that Louisville were playing. What you have to keep in mind is they are kind of in this weird place that this is kind of like postseason and preseason in one thing for them, because the summer break for second division teams in Germany is quite short, because in Germany we try to have them play a bunch of games before the Bundesliga starts, so that they get the spotlight, right? So they only have a 3-week break this summer. So they're in a little bit of a weird place, but I was surprised in what of a good state the team was already in. When they went down 1-0 to Louisville, they really turned it on, and Terrence Boyd scored 2 wonderful goals. And so I think you can learn quite a bit when you watch a team like Kaiserslautern that are playing in a division that is very difficult, right? Where you can be promoted or relegated. And if you're a place like Kaiserslautern, both things are possible, right? Because it's such a tightly contested league. So you're going to see a team that can really turn it on when they need to. And I think there is something to learn from that in terms, because in MLS, we don't really have those kind of pressures sometimes. And so I think if you're a young fan and go to this game, watch how Terrence Boyd competes even in a game like that, because he can be a nasty piece of business on the field. As nice as he is to us off the field, he's pretty nasty on the field. But those are little things that are important. Just watch for the little things that team like Kaiserslautern does. And I mean, this is such a great opportunity. I know Minnesota does this pretty much every season, right? That they bring different teams from different places and have them play there. And I think you learn so much from different playing cultures as individual players. And I think you also learn quite a bit of it as a fan watching the game. And I think that is some pretty good reasons to go and watch the game.
That's awesome. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're insanely busy as well. And then where can people find you? Where can people find your stuff? What can people find a way to follow you and keep up on not just Kaiserslautern, but everything that you podcasts or tweets or whatever it is that you have going on?
So a lot of my work is in Transfermarkt. They pay all my bills, let's say it that way. But we also have my Transfermarkt colleague and I, Stefan Bienkowski, we have the Gegenpressing podcast, and then we mention our Substack as well. So that's Gegenpressing. I think anyone who's vaguely interested in German football knows how to spell that. And then you can find all my stuff on Twitter. That's just Manuel Veth, one word. At Manuel Veth on Twitter. So yeah, go check that out. Check it out before Twitter dies, I guess.
Oh, well, awesome. I appreciate you taking the time, as I said, and we'll follow along. And I'm looking forward to this match tomorrow night. I know talking to Terrence, he's looking forward to Allianz Field, and you just like in Louisville, and I know he's been in the United States before and played for Toronto and of course part of the men's national team, the youth system, but he did talk a lot too about some of these guys, their first trip over here and same thing, maybe a little bit pleasantly surprised with what was happening in Louisville. And now you get to come here to Minnesota United, to an MLS team in a beautiful stadium and play against that team. So appreciate you taking the time and filling us in today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody, that's another episode of Sound of the Loons. Tune in next week. Minnesota United has another home game on the weekend. Don't miss that one against Portland Timbers, so another Western Conference opponent. But thanks for joining me again this week.